Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to be showing you very quickly how in After Effects with the script to change the light source of your layer. Since After Effects now has 3D compatibility, you also of course have the option to create environment lights. And these environment lights we can choose what kind of layer or video we want to actually emit light to our 3D model. And additionally, in scripting, we now have the ability to check the light source of a light layer that is an environment type. And with this, we'll be able to automate things involving the environment of our 3D scene. So today, we're going to take this simple composition here with a 3D model, an environment light, and 3 to 4 different environment maps, and we're going to create a quick automation script that creates a composition which contains each of those environments as the light source. Before we get started, make sure you hit the thumbs up button down below and the subscribe button and join the channel as a member, and you get videos ahead of time as well as early updates. But we're going to start here with a simple composition with an environment light, and we'll actually set that as default to the default, which is no environment layer. We have a soccer ball, we have a video background, and then we have 4 different EXR environment maps. As you can see if I scale it up, these are actually the default maps from inside of Blender. And the goal is to basically create a duplicate composition for each of these EXR HDRI files. And the goal with that is to then have a view of our scene with 4 different environment maps. This is a super useful idea for automation if you need to set up a whole bunch of different looks for your product and preview them quickly. So I am going to go ahead and start here with the script. I have a simple script set up, and for once I'm actually using VS Code instead of ExtendScript, just because ExtendScript is having some problems connecting to the newest After Effects 2025. But nonetheless, we have a basic script set up here. We're going to start with a variable called our light layer, because ultimately what we're doing is going to be making multiple light layers. And which layer is that? Well, the light layer is in the active composition, which we're going to have as a presumption, and layer number 1, that's our light layer. We can actually improve this because we're going to be duplicating the comp. We're going to create a comp variable called app.activeItem, and we'll just replace that here as well. Excuse me, that needs to be app.project.activeItem. So we have a variable representing our composition, which we'll be duplicating, and we have one with our light layer, which we're going to be modifying. Now, what in the light layer are we modifying? It's this newer attribute called light source. And the light source is essentially going to refer to a layer object representing whichever layer it's emitting from. If it is null, it's going to be set to, under light options, this default value. But if it's actually a layer object, we should be able to link it to here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need to create a loop. We're going to create a for loop because we're going to basically need to do an operation n number of times. The number of times we're going to do that operation is with however many of these EXR files we have. Now there are many ways we could loop through this. We could use a smart name search, look for anything with .exr in it, or we could just hard code the layer indices. So what I'm going to do is create a new array object. I'll zoom in here slightly for you. And in this array object, we're just going to call it layer env array. And this is going to contain each of the layer objects with one of these 4 environments. We have city, courtyard, forest, interior. And how are we going to get those? We're going to just create a variable called L, set it equal to 0. Actually, we're going to want to set it to the first index of the first environment layer. We're going to assume all the environment layers are at the bottom. So we're going to start with layer 4. So we'll say L is equal to 4. L is less than our comp.num layers. Then we'll increment L++, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And we need to set this equal to less than or equal to our comp.number of layers, so it goes 4, 5, 6, 7, and hits all 4 of those. And on each one of these, we're going to say layer env array.push. We're going to push some items into this array so we can store them. Comp.layer L. And that's simply going to go push this, push this, push this, and then push this into our layer environment array. And that's exactly what we need. We need an array of all of those. Now, we're going to now loop through our layer env array. Obviously, there are some optimizations you can make here, but we're just going to do it this way to better illustrate it. We're going to say var e is equal to 0, and for var e is less than our layer env array.length, increment e. This is just a simple way we're going to loop through however many items we find in this array. Now, what do we want to do each time we find one of these environment layers? Because that's essentially what we're doing. We're going from city.exr to courtyard.exr to forest.exr to interior.exr. So for each one of these, what are we doing about them? The first thing we need to do is duplicate our composition. Very simple. All we have to do is say comp.duplicate, and boom, we have that. But we're probably going to want a little bit more control, so we'll create a variable called duplicate comp, and we'll simply set that equal to that duplicate option. So then we have access to the composition, because inside of the composition, once again, we need to get our light layer and change the light source. In fact, before we do this, what we're going to do is go ahead and just alert, inside of this second for loop, we'll alert our layer env array index e dot name. That way it's going to alert to us what each of the layer names are. And now if I go down to eval in Adobe After Effects, you can see we're going to get city.exr, courtyard.exr, forest.exr, and interior.exr, which is perfect. So now we know we're looping through it appropriately. We're going to duplicate each one of those. And since we're starting to do a lot of operations, I'm going to enclose all of this in an app.begin undo group. Call this light changing event. And then at the very end, we'll say app.end undo group. That way, because we're going to start doing more and more operations, it's going to be able to be undone in one click. If we run it, you can see we're getting a whole bunch of duplicate comps, and I can easily undo it. Okay, so now we're getting a duplicate of each of the comps, and it's just going to call them comp1, comp2, comp3. Let's go ahead and be a little bit more specific and say duplicate comp.name is equal to duplicate comp.name, and we're going to say underscore, and then we'll say layer env array e.name plus version. So what this is basically doing is it's taking the original name of the composition and it's saying add the layer name plus version. So if I go ahead and run this, you can see the layers are, or the compositions are being called comp 2 city.exr version courtyard.exr version. This just lets us know a little bit easier what the actual setup and version of the EXRs is being used. And lastly, remember, we need to actually change the source layer, because when I open these up, all these light layers are still using that default EXR or default environment. So up here we have this light layer variable. We'll go ahead and just paste that in our loop here. And instead of saying comp.layer1, that's our original composition that we're duplicating, we'll say duplicate comp.layer1, because each time we duplicate this, the first layer is still going to be this environment light. Now lastly, we're going to be using our new property here called light source. So we're going to take our light layer and say .light source. And what are we going to set the light source equal to? We're going to set it to our layer env array index e, or the current layer index. Now, one last small thing we're going to do is say duplicate comp.open in viewer. That way we don't have to click on each of our compositions to see the changes we've made. So now, let's run our script. And we're going to see that we're still using the default. So let's read this and see why we're getting it wrong. So it's only allowed HDR and EXR layers as sources, which we are using. For a light layer, the layer to use as a light source when layer.lightType is lightType.environment. Okay. Light layer.lightSource can be any 2D video or pre-composition layer in the same composition. Attempting to assign 3D layers will result in an invalid light source specified. Let's alert our original comp.layer1 .light source. I want to see what kind of object that is first, because maybe we don't need an actual layer object. Let's see here. What kind of object does it give us? We get an error. Try it again. Null. But when I set it to something, what does it say? Set it to courtyard. We get object AV layer. So I'm wondering if we have to set it to an integer, because I'm trying to use an AV layer, I believe. If I alert each one of these layer env arrays, those should also be AV layers if I'm not mistaken. So we'll run this. The current environment says an AV layer, and all of these are also AV layers. So first let's see if we can even set it. Instead of setting the light source to that, actually what we can do is let's try catch, see if it tells us anything. This, if it gives us any specific errors, might tell us why we're getting the error instead of just making us guess around. Make sure you have the comp selected. And no, it's saying that works okay. So what I'm going to try now, instead of setting the light source to a layer object, I'm just going to try setting it to index 2 and see if that works. Actually, I should probably keep the try catch in case it catches. So we'll do that. Undo and run it. 2 is not the correct type. So I think we're setting it to the correct type. Let's try this again. Go like this. And on each one we'll alert. Oh. Is it trying to reference the original composition? So instead of selecting only the layers here, we should get the index, I believe. Which we really don't need then. We just say, we're going to optimize this heavily, okay? So we don't need this first for loop because we're storing the layers from this original composition. But if I duplicate this composition, those layers aren't the ones I can reference. I can't say use an environment layer from a different composition. So we're going to remove this whole line here. Instead of looping the layer env array, we're going to just loop from the same one we did before, which is 4 to the comp.numLayers. And then we don't have a layer env array anymore. We're just going to say duplicate comp.layerE.name. And same for this. Now if we try it, fingers crossed, we'll make sure we have everything selected. Undefined. We now have the correct setup. Let's go ahead and run it without the alerts. So again, we have our setup here with the default light. We'll run the script. And it's going to create these 4 different versions. We have our city, and in the city we have our city.exr. In the courtyard version, we have our courtyard.exr. In the forest version, we have the forest.exr, and in the interior version we have the interior.exr setup. So this is just a cool use of the new light source feature. If you're using 3D and After Effects to this degree, you can now automate this. So if you need to create sort of different looks for a composition or just automate the source layers for environment layers in some way, now you can. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the thumbs up button down below and subscribe and join the channel as a member to get videos weeks in advance. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.